Hello and welcome to The Big Picture. The expansion of the Council of Ministers undertaken by Prime Minister Narendra Modi yesterday paled into insignificance by late last night when the reshuffle of portfolios were announced. After the Prime Minister himself had told some journalists a day before that the exercise was more an expansion than a reshuffle, the portfolio reshuffle came as a surprise. The biggest surprise was, of course, that of Smriti Irani, who lost the coveted HRD ministry. Just a few months earlier, her parliament performance defending herself and her government in the controversy surrounding her ministry had been applauded by no less than the PM himself. There are other changes which has also surprised many. The shifting of Jayant Sinha from finance to civil aviation, to name just another one. We will today discuss the reshuffle, who has gained and who has lost, and what it means. To discuss this, I have with me Professor Pushpesh Pant, political analyst, Professor Jagdish Shettigar, economist and a former head of the BJP's economic cell, Sachidananda Murthy, resident editor of The Week magazine, and Vandita Mishra, national opinion editor of the Indian Express. Welcome to all of you. Vandita, first let me come to you first. What are the signals which you have received from this reshuffle of the portfolios?
I think the morning was completely overtaken by the evening. In the morning, it seemed that it was a routine expansion in the pattern of such exercises of the past, where the exercise was aimed at a certain kind of symbolism. You know, you have 5 scheduled caste members in the ministry, 2 more from the scheduled tribes. 3 from the poll-bound state of UP, another 3 from the poll-bound state of Gujarat. But then the evening, what Mr. Modi has done, shows a Prime Minister who definitely wants to send out a signal that he is still in control, he's still thinking politically, he's still looking ahead and not backward. And I think by the shifting of Smriti Irani, there is a very strong signal that you cannot be larger than your ministry and that you better get down to deliver rather than headline hunting.
Interesting. Professor Shettigar, would you agree with that? Is that the signal which you are getting, or you are getting something different?
I think it should not look from the angle of an individuals. Now, as far as the government is concerned, there are 2 messages with regard to the expansion. Of course, political strategy, that is keeping in view the forthcoming elections. Probably the expansion has been made, and also the commitment of maybe the government to the social engineering. But as far as the reshuffle is concerned, it gives a message that the government means a business, and giving a signal that it's a performance is the only thing. If you don't perform, then there is no chance. I mean, any government or any chief of any organization, that is what he has to supposed to do that and all. And knowing Narendra Modi, that is, he means a business. That is what he has been, did in Gujarat also. Here also he is trying to give the message, either you perform or not. After all, in the end of the day, it is not individuals. It is a government and the organization behind that. He has to deliver. And individually, he is.
Smriti Irani was a larger individual than many others in the government.
No, when it comes to the organization or the government as a whole, individuals don't matter. So after all, there is a commitment on behalf of the party and particularly the leader, that is Narendra Modi, because whatever the support came, more than the organization, it was Narendra Modi's appeal. Now he has to deliver. Now if he failed to deliver, then he will be accountable. Now when it comes to that, at the end of the day, he has to, like he said, then on 2019, I will come before and give my report card.
Okay.
Now,
so
from that point, whatever the strategy, all that we can say that it's a part of the strategy. So there, maybe today you are here, tomorrow you are there. Suppose she performs well in the textiles, maybe. Because the success of the leader depends on identifying the right people for the right work.
Okay, Professor Pant, this is very interesting. Everybody is saying it's a performance, at least Professor Shettigar is saying it's performance oriented. This whole exercise was performance oriented. So So was Smriti Irani a non-performer?
No, I'm afraid I would beg to differ from Professor Shettigar, because I think on the performance count, regardless of her abrasive behavior.
Sir, 1 second. We are now joined in by Mohan Guruswamy, an economic analyst. Welcome, Mohan. I'll come to you later.
Girish, because what I'm surprised is that you may dislike Smriti Irani, and lots of people did, especially in our academic community. But I think on the performance front, she can hardly be faulted, because I think let's not get confined to Hyderabad Central University or Jawaharlal Nehru University or the problems in Delhi University. I think the universities don't represent the educational problem of India. She also...
Not just the
Not just. And she was also in charge of primary school. She was talking of SWAYAM. She was talking of ICT deliveries. She was talking of professional education. And even within the university, she was sternly taking action against vice chancellors who had been caught of plagiarism or financial irregularities. So now all that is being held against her. And I think, the problem is, I would agree with him that no individual is greater than the institution. But here was a person who apparently was creating a perception not only of exceptional proximity with the Prime Minister, also was larger than life image. Other people had a chip on their shoulder. This lady had a veritable log of dead wood. She can't forget her TV career, she can't forget the gender biases of the rest of the people, and she spoke out of turn, carried on Twitter. But I would think on the performance front, even reluctantly I would have to admit that the lady was doing pretty well, and all my biradari, the work sharkers of the claiming to be academically autonomous and freedom of expression, were abusing it all along, and they were being disciplined. So I don't see why a teacher getting salary should not be accountable for the number of classes taken, why the student, no offense meant to political ideological sympathizers of Kanhaiya Kumar, I can't imagine a person, a full-time research scholar in a central university, released on bail, campaigning all over the country, and then of course dutifully would say that I must get my degrees without any delay and so on and so forth. So I think not an individual, but I think she was cracking the whip on universities and institutions who are living on public taxpayers' money. And let's forget about universities.
So you're saying that here was a performer, and the performer has been...
My subjective opinion would be that here was a performer.
Sachi?
On Smriti, I think the opinion was always divided. What was she doing, where? But then the perception, especially outside the country also, was that she was like a big bull in the china shop, and that she was treading on too many toes, and then the results were not visible. What Professor Pant spoke about primary education and other initiatives and all that, but that there was no perception either in the government or in the party or in the media that she had been performing. And then there were a lot of these things that she was so impatient, she would throw files, do things. She had a big fight with the PMO on the world-class universities and all that. So, and she had become more than the solution, the problem there. So that's but then also you must see in the overall thing that Mr. Modi, though he has judged, as Professor Shettigar said, performance, he has not punished anybody by dropping them. 5 MOSs have been dropped, but that was to adjust within the constitutional limit. But otherwise, the law minister, and I think the law portfolio has been the even more difficult one for the Prime Minister than HRD, because this is the third law minister, though it is the second person. Ravi Shankar Prasad had to be shunted out of law very quickly. It was his first decision. But now Ravi Shankar Prasad has come back because Sadanand Gowda has not performed. So there are obviously issues there. Then Birendra Singh, rural development, another big budget ministry. So that means its performance and perception both have mattered here.
Performance and perception. That's interesting. Mohan, how do you perceive this entire exercise, especially the reshuffle of portfolios? The addition of 19 ministers really paled into insignificance by last night.
Well, there's no reshuffle really. There's only one major shuffle, which is, the HRD minister goes and, somebody else comes there. And a few minor ministers, MOS Finance.
MOS Finance is an important...
It's an important post, but functionally, the MOS in the Finance Ministry has very little to do. He does what is delegated to him by the minister. And I could not understand why that person was transferred. I thought he was doing a fairly good job.
That's the point.
Let me come back to...
Let me finish my question. The question is, Do you perceive this as an exercise which has been undertaken on the basis of the performance of the people, especially the reshuffle?
I don't agree. I think this exercise was undertaken to meet the requirements, immediate requirements of the state elections. You want to appeal to various constituencies in UP and other states.
Now, how do you explain Smriti Irani, or how do you explain Jan Sinha being?
That's exception. You got 19 new ministers coming in. You got one Smriti
expansion.
Irani shifted, but that is on the basis of performance, because, and I disagree with Pushpesh on that she had not even understood the problem of education in this country. The problem of backwardness, the problem of poor caliber, problem of different kinds of education. Some rural kids get educated in vernacular, urban kids get educated in English. She hasn't even addressed those issues. All she got was focused on internal fights, squabbles with different people. And I think that's the problem with the entire government. They haven't addressed any of the big issues. Savings to GDP rate is coming down, investment to GDP rate is coming down, tax to GDP rate is coming down, everything is coming down. They haven't made any attempts to reverse it. Just by shuffling a few people around, getting some MOS is not going to change the situation. So what are they doing? Now they said, what's that,
Maximum
governance, less government.
Minimum government.
Minimum government. Now you've got government to the maximum, 83.
82.
82. The Constitution limits you to that, And I think...
77, 78 actually.
No, it's 82. Out of 555.
Five of them were removed, so 78.
So, it comes to the entire limit there. And what are these ministries? Ministry for Animal Husbandry, Ministry for Civil Aviation, all inconsequential people who, because you made them ministers, they meddle around with the process of reform, process of administrative requirements, and completely, everything is coming to a standstill out here.
No, so the actual issue of reforms have not been undertaken, only the expansion has taken place.
Because reform to make government more efficient, more energetic, more responsive has just not begun.
Okay. Vandita, it said that this entire exercise yesterday was undertaken by the Prime Minister and the party president. Nobody else was involved or very minimally involved. So in that sense, you see this as a major shift in the way the government has functioned since the last 25 months.
I don't think this is a shift. I think the Modi and Amit Shah stamp on party and government is only being reinforced. But this is a trend that hasn't been broken. It has only gotten stronger. And may I also say that I completely disagree with Professor Pushpesh Pant's assessment of Smriti Irani. I think the higher education sector is riddled with problems that are certainly not of Smriti Irani's making, but on each of them she left the sector worse. Whether it was, the institutional rot, whether it was the anti-intellectualism, whether it was a privileging of ideology over pedagogy, she left everything worse. And I also do not think that the Rohit Vemula incident or the JNU unrest, campus unrest, can be brushed away so easily. I think the unease on campuses that have been making headlines over the last 2 years, those have been some of the most negative headlines for this government, and Smriti Irani has been hugely responsible for those.
Okay, that's Professor Pant, would you like to react to that?
No, I think I'm a minority of one on this one.
You are in a minority.
But I do still insist that Delhi JNU
No, you may have
where I spent 42 years of my life is not the barometer to judge either the mood on the campuses or the student unrest. The same applies to Hyderabad Central University. I do not think that the unrest on the campuses was the making of, I would agree with Ms. Mishra there, where she said she left everything worse. But the problems were not of her making. Whether it's BHU, Allahabad or Delhi University, Mr. Sibbal had left the university in a fair amount of mess. And even the great Nobel laureate has left the Nalanda University in a fair amount of mess. So this mess has started much before this poor lady was there.
And you're agreeing that it's got worse?
No, I am, of course I'm agreeing. I have no other reason. I said that other people had a chip on their shoulder. I began by saying that this lady had a log on her shoulder.
Okay. So, Professor Shettigar, is this, there's another analysis which is going on about this entire exercise is that the importance of the party president in this kind of an exercise, which apparently in the past, in a party like BJP was not as significant as it has become now. Would you agree with that?
Well,
No, because say after all, I mean, the organization gets a feedback from at the ground level through the cadre. So ultimately, party president represents that viewpoints. It is not when you say that whoever may be Amit Shah or whoever may be, it doesn't mean that his individual opinion. That comes from the ground level through the cadre. So he articulates that viewpoint. And similarly, as far as the Prime Minister is concerned, since he is right at that point, he knows that how the government has been functioning. So he knows. But now what is required at the ground level, because it is not just administration or the running of the organization, it's a governance. In the governance, in the democratic setup, sometimes you have to, I mean, the different factors have to be taken into
No,
consideration.
in this case, what are the factors which have been taken into consideration according to you? Like for instance, in the case of Jayant Sinha, what Mohan was talking about, he has been perceived as somebody who has been performing.
Say, Jayant Sinha, as far as the knowledge is concerned, definitely he knows the job and he has been doing it very well. But here in the government, the way you are doing also, whether it is Smriti Irani, Research Pushpa, it is not just performing, the way how you perform. Because the golden rule in the public life is that the minimum controversy, you should not be controversial. Because the government cannot afford to be in, whether it is in the organized political setup or here, you cannot have the luxury of being controversial. And as far as Jayant Sinha is concerned,
He was not controversial.
no, I think what my observation is that he lacked what he called the political maturity. Whereas
But he
in
was
this
just a minister
case,
of state.
lack of maturity. And here is
agree
the
with the Professor Shikha,
because
yeah.
in a certain things, some of the statements he made, because there is some limitation beyond which one cannot go, whether he is a cabinet minister, especially in the case of MOS, how far he can go. And articulating the viewpoints of the ministry as well as the government, there is a limitation. I think some of the statements he made, I think that definitely indicated that he lacked political maturity. So
Mohan, would you agree with that?
No, I wouldn't agree with that. I think he stayed within the limits. I think he worked closely with the minister. I think, there might be other reasons involved here, which, the press is not talking about, and, we'll probably come to know about it in a little while. Depends on, how Jayant Sinha and how Yashwant Sinha conduct themselves in the next few weeks. A lot depends on that. Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Such a, another shift which has taken place. Arun Jaitley, the INB ministry going away from him, getting it, Venkaiah Naidu getting it, losing parliamentary affairs, Venkaiah Naidu. How do you look at this?
See,
Again, is this performance? Is it performance related, or what is behind these changes?
See,
which have
parliamentary affairs is basically performance. Because I think what happened was Venkaiah, despite all his friendliness and all that, turned out to be a very, very aggressive parliamentary affairs minister. I think because one thing is that he thought that Prime Minister wanted him to be very aggressive with the opposition and all that. So he could not deliver on many legislation. Rajya Sabha was a logjam. And then within the party there was this talk some months ago I've been hearing that we need, we miss Pramod Mahajan. He was Atal Bihari Vajpayee's pointsman in parliamentary affairs, and he used to manage and all that. So they was looking for somebody. And I'm not saying Anant Kumar is another Pramod Mahajan, but he has been trained by Pramod Mahajan.
He's untested as far as this is
He's
concerned.
untested, and then he has not been a very aggressive person. He's not attacking anybody and all that. So I think that's what they wanted, a soft touch for parliamentary affairs. And Venkaiah being the former party president and all that, so he had to be this thing. Now, Arun Jaitley also has been telling a few of us for the last 2 weeks that I've done my job here, I want to concentrate on finance. So he has been giving hints that before it was taken away from him, he was letting it go. But then coming back to your other question, the only experience of a BJP government earlier was a Vajpayee government.
Right.
There, Vajpayee was such a towering personality and Advani was with him. So the party president did not matter whoever it was. But when Modi came to Delhi to form his government, he was a newcomer. So he depended mainly on Arun Jaitley and also on Rajnath Singh, who was the party president
Right,
at that
right.
time. So, but then,
So that phase, you say that phase is over?
That phase is over. Amit Shah is now definitely the number 2 in all respects, not just being seated next to Modi at Rashtrapati Bhavan, but in all respects he is now the
which was
number
itself
2.
a departure from the. From
Yeah, no, but then that used to happen because Sonia Gandhi would be given the pride of place after the Prime Minister in the
But she,
UPA
would,
dispensation.
but she wouldn't sit next to him in the Rashtrapati Bhavan at least. Anyway, Vandita, you know, as far as this shift in the power structure is concerned, you know, what Sachi was talking about, how 2 years back, you know, the Prime Minister had to depend on various people. You think that now with this exercise, that dependence on people whom he had to depend earlier is over for good?
I think what it does is that it puts greater pressure now on the Prime Minister and leaves him with fewer alibis. Because even on higher education now, or the mess in the higher education sector, now that Smriti Irani is out, you know, somebody who had carved out a persona which was larger than her ministry, who was a very high profile public figure. Now with somebody like Prakash Javadekar there, for instance, who in the environment ministry has functioned largely as, you know, his master's voice. He has done things quietly, and largely the perception is that he has done them in consonance with the mandate of the PMO. So now it is on Mr. Modi to show how he can implement his vision in the higher education sector. He's not left with alibis anymore, I think. The greater imprint that he is putting on his own ministry makes it all the more incumbent on him to then accept responsibility for failure as well as the success.
Professor Pant?
I think Vandita is spot on there. There are no more alibis left. And after you have replaced Smriti Irani, and you have got Prakash Javadekar here, that's the only major reshuffle, as Mohan very rightly pointed out, then you better deliver. And I think it's not only higher education. The Prime Minister, when he goes down in 2019, he will be held accountable for the mess school education is. The major issue has been saffronization or pinkification of the Indian education. Either way, Rajasthan textbooks have changed this morning. It's a state subject. So the state of primary schooling in this country is what is creating the mess in the universities. And I think the difference between public schools, government schools, Navodaya schools, and the corruption therein, in you know, toppers not being able to answer simple questions. So I think Vandita is very, very right there. Now the Prime Minister has got his point person there. Not only there, everywhere else as well, in law, information and broadcasting. He will have to explain.
Mohan, another crucial portfolio which has been changed, which has not got the kind of attention which is the telecom portfolio. Now, does it, you know, and it has been handed over to a Minister of State and giving him an independent charge. How do you look at that?
I don't think it really matters. Those are some portfolios in government, you know, because of a strong regulatory system, a strong regulatory body, advisory body. You have TRAI there, TDSAT is there, and a Ministry of Technocrats. You don't really need a high-profile minister who can intervene, overturn things. You know, when you have a politically powerful minister, that office tends to get misused. We've seen that in the past, and I think, you know, it doesn't really matter very much. But Ravi Shankar Prasad clearly was out of his depth out there because the subject was far too technical for him, and so he's gone back to law, to whatever law he knows, to Ministry of Law, and maybe, you know, he will undertake some of the reforms, and the Chief Justice will have no reason to cry again in public here.
Professor Shettigar, as far as telecom ministry, has it lost its importance now? Would you say it has lost its importance? Because, you know, actually it is going through that the distribution of spectrum has been, you know, is going to go on. It's an important ministry there, and a lot of money is going to, a lot of revenues are going to come from there.
I think more than that, I think it is putting a better person in the law ministry. In that way, I think we should look. It doesn't mean that the telecom has lost the importance. Telecom is still, it is in fact the emerging area and all.
And it's a huge revenue earner for the government.
But then you wanted someone, I mean, who can handle the law ministry. Probably Sadananda Gowda, I think like Deva Gowda, they are more of a local or the Karnataka and not familiar with the Delhi
National level
politics. And
politics.
that is how I think he had.
But still,
sort
such a wise he continued.
no, that I think we should look from it is I think warning signal for all. When I say that he did not take action, he just said that.
He
either
got
you
one
perform-
warning signal when he was
No,
changed from railways to law.
Maybe in the next time, I think he will take action.
No. I think it's the biggest dilemma for Modi is what do you do with ministers whom
Who are
you want to drop?
underperformers.
Underperformers, because he has shifted them, done things, but then the local political compulsions. Sadanand Gowda, a former chief minister of Karnataka, was unceremoniously removed as chief minister. There was a lot of flack within the Vakaliga vote bank in Karnataka he represents. And so he is needed because the local BJP leaders are saying, please don't humiliate him, keep him in the government. So he has been retained, but of course, obviously he has been out of his depth in law because one is that he did not, he just inherited a very heavy legal team in the Supreme Court who are close friends of the finance minister. So he didn't have any of this thing. And then he used to make statements and all that which were out of sync with what the other the powerful minister who controls law ministry was trying. So I think he was caught in this thing of, apart from his own inexperience, because he has only practiced in a small district court. He has never had experience of directly or at the complexities of the law ministry, legislation making. So plus this 8 month spat which is going on in the memorandum of procedure for appointment by the Collegium of the Supreme Court. So I think all that said that, but then Karnataka politics demanded that,
he be retained.
because
at
there's
least.
no other replacement for him from that community.
Yes, sir.
Now, what Mr. Murthy says sets me thinking. Does the appointment of Mr. Prasad in the law ministry mean that the friendship of Mr. Jaitley with some members of judiciary ceases to exist? That the problem still very much remembers there? You are still not looking at the elephant in the room? If there is still a minister who's very close to members of judiciary, and all this issue of judicial reforms and the NJAC is still going to create controversies?
Okay. Vandita, now the question is that now that both the Prime Minister and the party president have put their mark, stamp of authority on these exercises, what happens to the other ministers? There is also this talk going around that it's becoming more and more presidential in the way the government is functioning.
That is, of course, the question, that you've got these 19 new ministers.
Yeah.
You have made at least a couple of bold moves, at least one bold move you've made. But is this going to be president and the rest? Or are we going to see greater free autonomy for the ministers, greater delegation of power? Is Mr. Modi, for instance, finally going to make the transition from being Chief Minister of India to Prime Minister of India? Is he going to recognize that as Prime Minister, you need to delegate, you only need to set broad policy directions and then step back and let others take over? So that question is still an open one.
Mohan, very quickly.
Well, I think, we'll just have to wait and see, because I don't think performance is going to change by just having a few people in and a few people out. You have an unwieldy government, 81 ministries, 81 departments. The United States has only 9 cabinet officers. Government is very different. Here you have, everybody with this full, complete paraphernalia. You allocated, according to the Constitution, 15% of the House. As if, these are office of profit to be shared with maximum number of people, without any functional responsibilities, without any organizational structure, or for efficiency and concern for performance, nothing. All this is, spreading bread and loaves.
There lies a task of, trying to reform what the Prime Minister actually promised at the beginning of his term to make those changes. We will have to wait and watch if he will do that in the coming couple of years that he has. Thanks to all my guests. Please keep watching. We'll come back with Andhrish, The Big Picture, same time tomorrow.